know what is the difference between a seam ripper and an unpick. The seam ripper has a small bow. Use an unpick to remove a few stitches from the beginning of the seam. Then take a seam ripper and insert it so that the bow is in the direction of the right side of the fabric. The bow is there to push the fabric away from the sharp part, so only the thread gets cut. Do not hold it horizontally, but slightly at an angle, so the bow touches the right side of the fabric. Push the seam ripper forward slowly and the seam will disappear for a few seconds. You can use a small piece of scotch tape to clean all the remaining threads. If you start sewing right on the edge of the fabric, you can be 99% sure that the machine will tangle the threads and you can ruin the fabric. Now I will tell you the best way to start a seam. Place the fabric under the presser foot. The needle should not be at the edge of the fabric but 2-3 stitches forward. Press the reverse lever and sew backwards until you reach the end of the fabric. Then release the lever, hold the threads and pull them slightly to make sure that the fabric won't get stuck at the beginning. Then continue sewing as usual. If you need an elastic thread but you don't have any, cut a piece of elastic band with length a little bit longer than the needed elastic thread. Use a seam ripper and gently try to tear the edges, and then pull the threads until you see the elastic threads. When you see the elastic thread, you can start pulling it gently while holding the end of the elastic band with the other hand. To sew with the elastic thread, take an empty bobbin and pass the end of the elastic thread through the hole of the bobbin. Then start winding the bobbin by hand. Pull the thread slightly while winding. Leave a little tail of the elastic thread and put the bobbin into the bobbin case. The tail should be towards the inside of the bobbin case. This will prevent the elastic thread from unwinding. Make sure that the tension is not too tight. When you pull the elastic thread, it should come out slowly. If the tension is too tight, the thread will break. Place the fabric under the presser foot and start sewing as usual. Don't forget to make a few back stitches to secure the elastic thread. Raise the presser foot and remove the upper thread. Pull the lower thread and thread the machine backward. Firstly, thread the needle. Pull the thread from the back side towards you. Then thread the upper part of the machine. Pull the thread a bit more than you need and pass it around the bobbin winder, so it's not on the way while you're sewing. Then just place the fabric under the presser foot and start sewing without backstitching. At the end of the seam you can make a few back stitches to secure it. The disadvantage of this method is that every time you start to make a seam you should remove the upper thread and use the bobbin thread to thread the machine again. Backstitching helps to prevent the seam from unraveling, but sometimes you can see it and it can be annoying. To make an invisible backstitch, you should set the stitch length to 0. Sew for 5 stitches, then change the stitch length according to your preference. Then start sewing. Instead of pressing the reverse lever on the machine, change the stitch length to 0 and sew for 5 stitches again. That's it. When you cut the threads, you will notice how beautiful it turned out. Do you know that there's a super secret notch on the back side of the presser foot bar on your sewing machine? Yes, it's there. Pause the video and check. Hurry up, it will disappear. You may not believe it, but it's a thread cutter. So if you don't have a thread cutter on the side panel of your sewing machine, you can use it to cut your threads. Here you can see it again. If you have an auto-overlock like mine and you haven't get used to its speed, you can use a magnetic seam guide for sewing machines and stick it onto the metal in front of the presser foot. This trick will help you to sew straight. If you don't have a magnetic seam guide, don't worry, you need a regular magnet. Mine is from an old printer, I think. And you can also stick it onto the needle plate on your sewing machine. If you feel the need to sew with a double or a twin needle and there is no place to put the second spool, take the seam ripper and brush tool which came with the machine. Remove the seam ripper and place the brush onto the bobbin winder. If you want to sew with a triple needle, some machines came with one more place for a third spool, where you can stick the seam ripper and place the spool on top of it. Did you turn off the iron? Do you often ask yourself this question? I have a simple solution. Use one power strip for the iron and the lamp above the sewing machine, or place a decorative lamp in the corner of the room so you can easily see it. This way, You will know that every time the light is on, the iron is also on. In addition, always turn off the iron with the temperature control knob before turning off the power strip, so you always will have to adjust the temperature to turn on the iron, and the chance of burning something due to improper temperature of the iron decreases.